how to teach a horse to rope, a lot of people go out and they'll get their horses pretty broke and they just generally start throwing ropes off them. But what I like to do is I like to do it from the ground first. I don't like to get bucked off, so if a horse decides that the rope is the most scariest thing ever and you get bucked off, it's not generally the best idea for me because I don't like it. So what I like to do, even though Bravo over here is really broke, I'm going to rope him first, and that way he learns that the rope is not necessarily something to be scared of. So when you're on his back, he already knows that it's not something to be scared of. Chewing. He's thinking about what just happened. He's deciding whether that was a scary experience or if the rope didn't hurt him at all, if he really doesn't need to be afraid of it. There you go. Bravo's a really smart horse, so he took that experience and discovered, oh, that wasn't scary. I didn't get hurt. And he processed it. So this time when I roped him, there was no big reaction. I got the stirrup. So what I do here now, I'll take the rope, put it up around their neck, let it touch their face, have it on him. So now, he's got the rope touching him, I'm messing with it, making noise. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off. He's really processed that first reaction and now he's like, that's not something to be scared of. So you can take this rope, sack him out with it. A lot of times this noise right here will really get horses. Hit him on the belly, touch him on the legs, around the butt right here. So next, I can't rope you when you're on my heels, bud. See? Now he's processed that that wasn't a scary thing. That was nothing to react about. So now, I'm going to take his halter off. So that's one less thing to take away there. Take this rope so it's nice and on his neck. I'm going to ask him to lunge with it. Next thing I'll do, got my rope all twisted up here. So I'll take this rope, I'll put it around the back end of the saddle here. Get that around his butt. Well, he's going to go the other way, so we're just going to... flip that around to the other side of him. And it looks like he's already had stuff like this done before. Kind of take that rope and his hind legs. He's giving it that pressure. He's not freaking out. Feels that rope on his legs. He's following to me and looking at me for guidance. He's not panicking. We've never done this before with him, but he's got a really good mind. Then I'll even come around to this side. And I'll ask him to move with this rope around his legs. And if he gets in a bind, and it's really, really bad, you can just end up dropping that rope. And they'll walk right out of it. Really easy. And he still knows when I give him pressure. He feels that rope around him, and he's got a really good mind on him to where right there he could have spun into the rope and got himself tangled up, but he didn't. Felt where the pressure was coming from. He felt how the rope was around his legs, and he twisted out and got himself out of it, which is really good. But if you do get a horse where they twist themselves up in the rope by themselves, just hold a little bit of pressure for a little bit. Let them throw their fit if they start panicking, and as soon as they calm down, you release that pressure. You don't want them to learn when they panic, the rope gets off. You want them to learn that when they calm down and learn that everything's okay and they rely on you to help them, you want them to learn that that right there is when they get all the pressure taken off, when they get that rope off of them, and you are there to help them. You're not there to hurt them. So if you take it off when they're throwing a fit and panicking, you're just teaching that horse that the rope is scary, and when they freak out, see, he's got a good mind. He feels where that pressure's coming from, and he's turning into it. He's not binding himself up in this rope like a lot of horses would do. He's not freaking out about it around his legs. Ooh. Like I said, if they get in a really bad situation where they're just gonna hurt themselves or hurt you, you can always just drop that rope. Eventually they'll just come out of it, unless they tie their legs up or something like that. But most of the time, you could just drop that rope, get some slack, and it might take a minute or two of them freaking out, but they can generally get that rope off if it's got slack. Here, he's got it underneath his front leg here. We're gonna take that opportunity to teach him that this rope is not here to hurt him. He's doing really good. He feels that pressure on his leg, and he's just picking it up. Not kicking, he's not flailing around, which is really what you want. Like I said, this horse is really well bred. He's got a great mind on him. He's extremely smart. He's one of those horses that goes back working for 15 minutes on a problem and end him on a good note, and the next time you don't have that problem with him. It's a good opportunity to take this rope and get it up under his tail. You don't want to teach a horse to panic if they get tailed by a rope. They say you're ponying something, say you don't rope at all. You don't want him to learn clamp that tail down onto your rope when it's up underneath there. He's kind of clamping a little bit there, but he's doing good. He feels where this pressure's coming from. And look at that. Basically just taught himself right there by turning the opposite direction, and the way the pressure was coming from his neck, he got himself out of that situation. Now, a lot of horses can't handle being tailed. I think a lot of it is people don't teach their horses from the beginning when they start learning about the rope and that it's not a dangerous situation. They don't teach their horse that if they get tailed, it's not a big deal. That's just something people skip. And it's the same thing when a foot gets roped. say right here, or put this rope right here. Back him up. You're roping, you miss a loop, catch your horse's foot, your horse steps into your loop. A lot of horses will freak out on that right there. Pressure on their leg, you're on their back and they're not used to their feet being picked up. So this is a good thing to teach your horse right here. Put a loop around their leg like that. Let them feel it. Let him feel the pressure. He doesn't care. He's a good boy. And it's a good thing to teach him that. And Bravo's been hobbled before. He knows the difference between when to panic and stuff. But stuff like this too, if you rope their foot, teach them to give to that pressure. If you walk through a barbed wire fence or some string or baling twine or something like that, a lot of horses will panic getting that wrapped around their legs. But if you hobble your horse and you rope your horse's feet, it's a good way to teach them that they can have stuff around their feet and not panic. Good boy. Then they just stand there and kind of wait for you to get it out. See right here, he's not panicking. Teach him right here that you come along. There you go. You take that rope off his foot, then he learns he's free. He relied on you for help, and you gave him that help. That's a really good step of teaching your horse when they get tangled up in something. It's not a bad ordeal. Same thing with getting the rope around his legs, up around his legs, behind his hind legs. Those situations right there, even if you don't rope yourself and you're just trail riding or whatever, you show Western pleasure. If you go out and ride your horse on the trail, you come across some barbed wire, your horse already knows stuff wrapped up around their legs is not a bad situation, that they could just stop, you can get off, everything's calm, they're just like, hey, we got a problem and I need you to take care of it. So you get off and you take care of that problem, and your horse relies on you, becomes more confident in you, and they become more confident in themselves with that. I'm always preaching, be confident in your horse, makes your horse confident, makes them rely on you, and then they start thinking before they react. And I'm always preaching that. And you get yourself in a really good, genuine, bomb-proof horse. You can go out with something that they've never seen before, even if you do all the tarps and everything like that. You go out in a meadow and there's an orange tarp and not a blue tarp on a haystack, just because it's a different color. Some horses can be panicky about that. But if you teach your horse to think before they react, situations where, say they've never been wrapped up in barbed wire, you know, he's been wrapped up in the rope, he's proved that he's got a good enough mind and he thinks before he reacts. He's going to process that something. He's not going to think, oh, this is barbed wire, not a rope around my legs. He's just going to process, I've had stuff wrapped around my legs before and I know how to handle the situation. I stop and my owner takes care of it. So it's always a good way, good starter to start your horses. And even if you get new horses, they're even dead broke, it's a good way to evaluate what their mind is, what their thought process is, how they're going to handle situations. Because you could do a lot of work from a rope, never end up hurting your horse, never do anything. You don't have to choke them out and lay them on the ground and do the old-fashioned cowboy way of rope training a horse, or, you know, you don't have to do that stuff. But it is a good way, it's a good tool to use for your horses, even if you don't rope yourself, or you just want a good horse to start teaching them to think. You could do a lot of things with a rope to teach a horse. And you can teach them pressure and release. If you got a hard to catch horse, go in a round pen, you teach them, hey, even though I'm standing in the middle of this round pen, I can still catch you from 10 feet away, 20 feet away, however far you can rope. I can rope you and you still have to come to me. So even with hard to catch horses, it's a good tool if you can, you know, throw a decent loop and practice and be able to rope your own horse. It doesn't have to be, like I said, the old-fashioned way where everybody ends up stomping on their horse's head, getting entangled up in a rope and laying them on the ground. I think roping horses has a really bad rap for that particular reason when it's not that at all. It's just, it's a good tool to use for your horse.